Elon Musk recently mentioned on Twitter that Tesla is going to be opening up their Supercharger network to allow other EVs to use it later on this year. And of course, this has been received with mixed reactions by people in the Tesla community. In this video, I want to take a moment to give some context for this whole issue and also share my opinion and really talk about why I believe this is actually a good thing for EV adoption. So let's dive into the details and talk about this issue. First of all, I want to start out by addressing the concern of those that are worried that superchargers are going to get even more busy than they are right now and that they're going to be flooded with a bunch of other electric vehicles. I don't think that's going to be the case. Unlike many other charging networks, Tesla Superchargers do not have any screens or payment terminals because that is all handled when the network recognizes which Tesla vehicle is connected and it bills the owner appropriately. And also the charging info is displayed on the screen inside of the car, so no screen on the chargers themselves is necessary. Because of this, opening up access to Tesla's Superchargers is not as easy as just flipping a switch and allowing everyone to have access. There's a lot more involved. One way around this is that billing and payment could instead happen through a mobile phone. However, I still believe that other EV brands will have to integrate some bits of software into their cars for it all to work properly. Also, as I'll talk about more in just a few minutes, Elon Musk in the past said that in order for other EV brands to use their supercharging network, they would need to pay for whatever proportion of the system that they use. So it appears like for other EV brands to take advantage of the supercharging network, they're going to have to share in the cost of setting up superchargers and also maintaining them as well. After all, this is only fair. So with this added context, I believe the Tesla supercharger network will be open to other EV brands, yes, but not all other EVs. Plus, if other EV auto manufacturers are helping pay for the cost of setting up superchargers and maintaining them, this will also help speed up Tesla's progress in deploying more chargers and more stations. And after all, this is going to be a really good thing for everyone. So with all that in mind, let's now dive into further details around Elon Musk's comments on Twitter and also further context about the Tesla Supercharger network itself. On July 20th, Elon put out a tweet in response to a comment about the Tesla Supercharging network, and he shared some insights into why Tesla created their own proprietary charging connector. In his own words, he said, "We created our own connector as there was no standard back then, and Tesla was only maker of long-range electric cars." As Elon mentioned, EVs were somewhat rare in 2012, and since there was no real standard when it came to a charging connector, it made sense for Tesla to start with a clean sheet and design their own. In that same tweet regarding the connector, Elon mentioned, "It's one fairly slim connector for both low and high power charging." And Tesla's connector has stood the test of time, and while it's not the EV standard, it's a Tesla exclusive connector, it is very well designed. Now, while EVs were rare in 2012, there were virtually no charging networks. And so Tesla knew in order for an electric vehicle to be truly practical, that simply having a long range would not be enough, because even with a long range, you can't travel across the country unless you have good charging networks along the way. I believe Elon realized that in order to achieve his goal of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy and transportation, a nationwide charging network was necessary to make EVs truly practical. Tesla started opening up their first supercharger locations shortly after they started delivering their first high-production EV, the Model S. In September of 2012, they held an event to commemorate the opening of their first 6 supercharger locations in California: Los Angeles, Gilroy, Barstow, Tejon Ranch, Harris Ranch, and Folsom. When it comes to Tesla's progress of deploying these superchargers, as of Tesla's Q1 2021 quarterly update letter, they had 2,699 individual locations worldwide, and their website currently says that they have over 25,000 individual chargers. This is easily the largest DC fast charging network by a large margin, and I believe this network has played a major role in Tesla's success over the years. Of course, as of right now, those who drive Tesla vehicles are the only ones who can take advantage of the convenience of the supercharging network. However, according to Elon Musk, that's going to change later on this year. As Elon mentioned in that tweet that we referenced earlier, we're making our supercharger network open to other EVs later this year. He also responded to Aaron on Twitter, who asked, "Will this be open to other EVs in all countries or just specific ones?" To which Elon replied, "Over time, all countries." If you've been enjoying this video so far, please remember to click that like button. Also, if you're not yet subscribed to this channel, please consider subscribing as well. Now, I think it is important that I point out that this idea of Tesla's supercharger network being open to other EV brands is nothing new, and this is actually a topic that has been talked about and discussed for quite some time. In fact, I found a Charged article from back in 2015 entitled "Tesla in Talks with Other Automakers About Sharing the Supercharger Network." And in that article, Elon was quoted as saying, "Our supercharger network is not intended to be a walled garden," said Musk. "It's intended to be available to other manufacturers if they'd like to use it. The only requirements are that the cars must be able to take the power output of our superchargers and then just pay whatever their proportion their usage is of the system. We're actually in talks with some manufacturers about doing just that, and it will be exciting to share that news." Also in December of last year, Elon responded to Marquise Brownlee on Twitter when he asked, "Why don't more electric car makers take up Tesla on their offer to use the supercharger network?" Elon responded, "They are, although it's kind of low key. Tesla superchargers are being made accessible to other electric cars." So as I've shown, this is not exactly a new topic, but this is the first time, this tweet from Elon Musk, this most recent tweet, this is the first time that there's actually been a timeline for this happening, because Elon Musk said it's going to happen later this year. And this is also the first time that I've seen confirmation that it's going to include all countries globally. Now, in just a minute, I'll dive further into my personal opinion about this move from Tesla. But before we do that, I think it's important that we take just a moment and we talk about the where this is going to happen and what EVs will be included in this move. I don't believe it's going to include everywhere all at once, because Elon Musk mentioned all countries over time. And I also don't believe, as I've alluded to earlier, that it's going to include all EV brands all at once. It appears like only EV brands that are willing to help pay for some of the network cost, as I mentioned earlier, and also add a bit of code to their cars, are going to have access to the supercharger network. Also, there's the issue of charger port compatibility. Back in 2018, we started seeing reports that Tesla would be including CCS Combo 2 charger ports on Model 3s sold in Europe. Also, in April of 2019, Inside EVs reported that Tesla had retrofitted many of the European superchargers to include CCS charging connectors as well. With these CCS charging connectors already installed at Tesla supercharger locations in Europe, which will allow a lot of other EV brands to connect to these superchargers without an added adapter, this makes European superchargers likely the easiest to open up to other EVs. Also, Reuters recently reported that the German minister was in talks with Tesla about sharing the Tesla supercharging network. When it comes to the United States, it definitely appears like Aptera will be using the Tesla supercharger network, as it appears like they are using the Tesla connectors. Also, EV truck startup Bollinger asked publicly on Twitter in 2018 to use the Tesla network. It could make sense for a lot of other EV startups to take advantage of the Tesla network as well. However, there is another EV startup, Rivian, who is building out their own charging network. So likely that startup will not be using Tesla's supercharger networks, but maybe some of the other smaller ones will take Tesla up on this offer. So now that I've provided all that context, I'd now like to dive into my own personal opinion around Tesla opening up their supercharger network. Now, I personally do believe this is a really good idea, and I think a lot of other people believe it's a good idea as well, but I also understand why people are concerned about this. Although Tesla is expanding their supercharger network at breakneck speed, with the rate at which Tesla is increasing their vehicle deliveries year over year and their massive growth goals for the future, superchargers are becoming a lot busier, especially in heavily trafficked areas and during holidays. However, I don't believe opening up Tesla's supercharging network to other EVs will actually make this problem any worse, and it might actually make it better because, as I alluded to earlier, if other EV brands are making use of the Tesla superchargers, they're also likely going to be sharing in the cost of deploying and maintaining those superchargers as well. And so I believe this will actually lead to a further increase in the deployment of superchargers, and maybe even add a lot more chargers to certain locations. And I believe this could naturally solve this problem. Also, if the lack of a reliable charging network for other EV brands is truly holding back EV adoption, opening up the Tesla network, which is, like I mentioned before, the largest fast charging network right now, to other EVs would make sense for the bigger goal of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Replacing more internal combustion engine cars with electric vehicles, after all, whether that's a Tesla brand or another brand, does fulfill Tesla's mission. So it is a good thing when it comes to the big picture of it all. So that wraps it up. I would love to hear from you, if you're a Tesla owner, what you think about this move from Tesla and what you think about some of the points that I made in this video. Let me know in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you. I also want to take a moment here at the end of the video to thank the Patreon supporters who support me every month and help make this content possible. A special thank you to my performance supporters and also the other supporters listed on the screen. If you'd like to find out more about the Patreon community I've set up, I'll put a link in the description below. Thank you so much.